Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Representatives from France's Banditry Repression Brigade say that they are investigating a high-value robbery case this week after a crew of thieves carried out a brazen daylight raid at a luxury jewelry store, making off with millions worth of stolen goods. According to reports, the incident took place at around lunchtime on August 1st, when the group of three suspects entered the Piaget store on Rue de la Paix, a famous shopping street located in Paris's high-end Place Vendôme area. Armed with a handgun equipped with a silencer, they allegedly forced staff to the ground before emptying valuables from the shop's displays. They were apparently gone as quickly as they had come. While thankfully no one was hurt as a result of the incident, police say that the thieves managed to make off with an estimated 10 to 15 million euros, or roughly 11 to 16 million dollars worth of jewelry and other valuables. At the time of this recording, few additional details are available about the case, though authorities say that they are looking for 2 men and 1 woman in connection with the incident. Interestingly, it appears that the suspects were well dressed at the time of the robbery, which they may have used to blend in prior to carrying out the crime. The male suspects were reportedly dressed in gray suits, while the woman was wearing a green dress and black pants. If you recall, this is not the first high-value raid to take place in the area. Last July, we brought you a similar story after a man on a scooter stole 2 to 3 million euros worth of jewels from the Chaumet boutique, though he was quickly arrested. In general, though, authorities say that these types of crimes are on the rise, with another luxury store just 100 yards from this week's crime scene already targeted 3 months ago. The situation is still developing. Officials in Bolivia say that they are continuing the hunt for an internationally wanted drug trafficker this week, following a botched attempt to capture him several days ago. According to reports, members of Bolivia's special forces had been preparing to arrest 32-year-old Sebastian Marcet at a soccer game in the city of Santa Cruz on July 30th, where he was supposed to be playing on a second division team he owns. The operation was planned after authorities were informed in June that Marcet had been hiding out in Bolivia under a fake name and fraudulent Brazilian identity documents after fleeing his native Uruguay. He is accused of leading an international drug trafficking organization called the First Uruguayan Cartel, which smuggles cocaine from Paraguay through Uruguay into Europe. He is wanted in several other countries, including the US and Brazil, and there was also an Interpol arrest warrant out for him in Europe. In addition to drug trafficking activities, Marcet is accused of planning the assassination of Paraguayan anti-crime prosecutor Marcelo Pecci. If you're a regular viewer of our Crimes of the Week International series, you might remember that we reported on this incident when it happened back in May of 2022. Marcelo was on his honeymoon on the Colombian tourist island of Baru when he was brutally shot to death by gunmen on the beach in front of his pregnant wife. While several people have since been sentenced in connection with the murder, Marcet is said to have been one of the key people responsible for masterminding it. Suffice it to say, this was supposed to be a high-profile arrest. Much to the dismay of investigators, though, it appears that Marcet was tipped off the day before special forces were planning to move in. Things went sideways when members of the 32-year-old's private paramilitary force managed to kidnap a local police officer, giving Marcet time to escape from the residence where he was living with his wife, children, and other family members. By the time authorities were able to end the hostage situation and raid the property, Marcet and his family were long gone. Adding insult to injury, Marcet reportedly sent a taunting video to police several days after his escape. In it, he thanked Bolivian authorities, alleging that it was the director of the special forces that tipped him off so that he could get away. Currently, it's unclear if there is any truth to this claim, though it appears Marcet may have simply said it to stir up controversy and sow confusion, since other things he said in the video have since proven to be false. The director has vehemently denied giving Marcet any information, and there are also reports that it was actually police drone activity in the area that may have tipped him off. At the time of this recording, authorities are continuing their hunt for Marcet, with more than 2,200 officers taking part in the search. At least 8 additional properties linked to the 32-year-old have since been searched, and more than a dozen people allegedly involved in his drug trafficking operation have been arrested. The situation is still developing. A 33-year-old whose own friends have referred to him as an idiot driver has been sentenced to prison this week, more than 2 years after he killed a man with his van and then tried to cover up the crime. The whole thing reportedly began on the night of June 19th, 2021, when the perpetrator, Scott Freeth, was out driving drunk with his 2 friends in Greater Manchester. Evidently not content with how dangerous this already was, Freeth proceeded to drive at excessive speeds, also recklessly overtaking other vehicles on single-lane roads and blowing through red lights. He apparently continued this despite repeated pleas from others in the vehicle to slow down. At approximately 11:45 p.m., things took a tragic turn when Freeth struck 56-year-old father of 3 David Clegg as he crossed the street in the town of Ashton-under-Lyne. Sadly, David never had a chance. At the time he was hit, Freeth was traveling at 50 miles per hour in what was supposed to be a 30 zone. Rather than trying to help David, though, Freeth reportedly fled the scene. That same night, he also tried to burn the Mercedes Sprinter van that he had been driving in an attempt to cover his tracks. The following day, the 33-year-old turned himself into police at the urging of his mother and one of his friends. Under questioning, he proceeded to offer a full confession. After pleading guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and attempting to pervert the course of justice, Freeth was sentenced to 9 years and 4 months in prison this week. He was also banned from driving from a further 14 years and 2 months. Speaking about the case after the decision, David's daughter Casey spoke about how the loss of her dad had thrown her life into turmoil. She was just 14 years old at the time of the incident, and her father was her only parent, as her mother had already passed away several years earlier. In an interview, the now 16-year-old said, quote, "Waking up to be told that my dad had been killed not only devastated me, but ruined my life, my future, and my plans. He won't see me grow up or be able to see his grandkids, and it really upsets me. Father's Day, birthdays, Christmases, and even New Year's have completely changed. Father's Day is the worst of all of them, because I can't be with him." Authorities in the South Korean capital of Seoul say that a 33-year-old man is facing murder charges this week following a terrifying recent stabbing attack that left 1 person dead and several others injured. According to reports, the incident took place sometime on July 21st in the city's Gwanak district. After walking up to a man in his 20s near Silim Station, the 33-year-old suspect, Cho Seon, allegedly stabbed him multiple times. He continued the attack in a nearby alleyway where he stabbed 3 other male victims. He was apprehended a short time later. While 3 of the victims survived the harrowing ordeal, sadly, the first man in his 20s was later pronounced dead. Upon further investigation, police say that they discovered Cho had stolen the knife used in the attack roughly 10 minutes before committing the crime. He reportedly took a taxi to the crime scene before ambushing the first victim. While in custody, Cho apparently told police that he was motivated to commit the crime by unspecified extreme hardship he was experiencing. He said that he, quote, "wanted to make other people miserable because he was also living a miserable life." He further admitted that he had researched methods of murder online prior to the attack, including which knives were best to use and which areas of the body to strike to be most lethal. He said he wiped and reset his phone before going to commit the crime out of fear that he would be caught before he got to carry it out. At the time of this recording, the 33-year-old remains in custody and is now facing a charge of murder as well as 3 counts of attempted murder. Representatives from the U.S. State Department say that they are desperately trying to locate a young nurse and her child this week after they were the victims of a terrifying kidnapping on the property of the Christian aid charity that she works for. According to reports, the victims, Alex Dorsonville and her unidentified child, were last seen on the morning of July 27th on the grounds of the Elroy, Haiti campus, located near the capital of Port-au-Prince. Alex, who is a registered nurse originally from New Hampshire, was in the middle of conducting medical checkups for patients there when a group of men entered and at least one of them pulled out a gun. The armed men then allegedly forced Alex and her child to go with them. They have not been seen since. While representatives from the U.S. State Department say that they have been in regular contact with law enforcement in the country, they have remained tight-lipped about the case, releasing exceptionally few details about the kidnapping. At the same time, the State Department ordered the departure of all non-emergency government personnel from Haiti, also issuing an upgraded travel advisory, advising all U.S. nationals to leave the country immediately, citing the increasingly precarious situation on the ground there. If you'll recall from previous reports, Haiti has been going through a serious period of political turmoil ever since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021. Things have gotten particularly dangerous in the capital, where armed gangs now control an estimated 80% of the city, and violent crime is common. According to the most recently available figures, there were more than 1,000 kidnappings in the country between January and June of this year alone. Alex's situation is particularly heartbreaking because of her work trying to provide aid in the country, particularly to children. The organization she works for, Elroy Haiti, mainly provides K-12 education to children and families that can't afford tuition. Alex's husband, Sandro, who is a native of the country, is the organization's director. At the time of this recording, Elroy, authorities in Haiti, and officials in the U.S. say that they are all working to try and get Alex and her child home safely. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the Thai capital of Bangkok say that a local man's difficult situation went from bad to worse this week after he was the victim of a fraud scheme and he allegedly tried to solve his problem by committing a crime of his own. According to reports, the whole thing started recently when the suspect, 40-year-old Jaratpong Srichai, was approached by a man online with a job offer. The unknown person told Jaratpong that he was a headhunter and that he had a lucrative potential position for him in Japan. The only thing was, Jaratpong would have to pay a 200,000 baht, or roughly $5,800 US, finder's fee up front if he was interested. Yeah, I think most of you can probably see where this is going. The guy was a scammer. Unfortunately, Jaratpong didn't know that, so he handed over the money. What was worse, he didn't just have that kind of cash lying around. He had taken out a loan to get it. By the time he realized that he had been scammed, it was too late. The money was long gone, and Jaratpong was in an even worse situation than he had started in because he had quit his job as an electrician to take the fake position in Japan. While I think that most of us can probably sympathize with Jaratpong's feeling of helplessness upon figuring out what had happened, the same can't necessarily be said for what happened next. The 40-year-old allegedly decided he would get himself out of debt by robbing a bank. According to reports, on July 25th, Jaratpong showed up at a bank in Bangkok's Chatuchak district. After heading inside, he posed as a customer, saying that he wanted to open a new account. He was informed that this would cost 500 baht, or about $14, said that he would get the money, and then promptly disappeared. It appears that the 40-year-old was trying to work up the nerve to actually carry out the robbery, because he came in a second time, only to leave again without speaking to anyone. On his third visit, he went into the bathroom for some time, after which he finally approached the teller, said that he had a gun, and demanded that they hand over cash. Unfortunately for Jaratpong, it seems that staff could sense his nervousness, and things quickly went sideways when instead of handing over money, the staff member went to get a security guard. The 40-year-old fled the scene on his motorcycle, though was later arrested at his home after easily being identified. After being taken into custody, Jaratpong reportedly revealed the whole story that had led up to the crime. He was charged with attempted robbery, though police have not yet revealed what kind of penalty he could be facing. Authorities in the Australian state of Tasmania released a heartbreaking update in the case of a missing teenager this week, announcing that after 3 months, her remains had been located. and that a man has now been charged with her murder. According to reports, 14-year-old Cheyenne Lee Tatnall was last seen around 8:30 p.m. on the night of April 30th in the city of Launceston. She was spotted walking near the North Esk River, and it's believed that she was on her way to visit a friend's house, though disturbingly, she would never arrive. Following nearly 3 months of investigation with few concrete updates, authorities announced last week that they were launching one of the biggest searches in the state's history in an area of bushland not far from Nabowla. The locality is about 30 miles northeast from where Cheyenne was last seen prior to her disappearance. On July 26th, police revealed that human remains had been discovered on a bush track during the search. Sadly, these remains have now been confirmed to be those of the missing teen. The following day, authorities released another update announcing that they had made an arrest in the case. The suspect was identified as 36-year-old Christopher Mark Jordan, a man from the town of Scottsdale, just a few miles from where Cheyenne's body was found. At the time of this recording, little additional information has been provided about the case. We know that Jordan is now facing murder charges. However, it's unclear what evidence investigators have against him or how he was connected to the case. The situation is still developing. Officials in the Indian state of Maharashtra say that they are investigating the aftermath of a chilling crime this week after a member of the country's own law enforcement allegedly carried out a terrifying and deadly shooting aboard a train. According to reports, the incident began sometime after 5 a.m. on July 31st aboard the Jaipur-Mumbai Central Superfast Express train. As the name suggests, the train was traveling from the city of Jaipur to the city of Mumbai and was roughly an hour and a half from its final destination when things took a terrifying turn. As the locomotive traveled through the town of Palghar, roughly 60 miles north of Mumbai, witnesses say that they heard gunshots coming from several different compartments. It wasn't until later that they would learn that these shots had been fired by 34-year-old Chetan Singh, a constable with the Railway Protection Force who had ironically been assigned to the train as part of its security detail. Authorities now allege that Singh began the attack by shooting his supervisor, Assistant Sub-Inspector Tikaram Meena, with his service rifle. After Meena was dead, Singh reportedly went into 2 other compartments, killing 3 other people, all of whom are said to have been passengers. After traveling about another 45 miles, Singh reportedly pulled an emergency chain aboard the train, bringing it to a stop at the Mira Road station on the outskirts of Mumbai. It was here that he reportedly jumped onto the tracks and tried to flee on foot, before being chased down and apprehended by officers from the government railway police. He currently remains in custody on multiple murder charges. At the time of this recording, no official motive behind the disturbing crime has been given. However, there are unconfirmed reports that Singh may have been suffering some kind of mental health crisis at the time of the attack. In an interview with local media, another one of the constables aboard the train at the time claimed that Singh had complained about not feeling well prior to the shooting and was told by ASI Meena to go and rest for a while. The constable said that after 15 minutes, Singh came back to him and demanded his rifle, leading to an altercation during which he was almost strangled. The attack allegedly began not long after. Currently, it appears that the names of the 3 other victims have not been released. The situation is still under investigation. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.